captured it like we would any development problem. Imperfectly, but we'll still do it. Okay, with that, I thought what I'll do is I'll start with a really brief intro of myself, and then we'll go into sort of an intro of all of you and also an intro of the class. And I would love to hear from each and every one of you about how, what's most important to me is how this class can be useful to you. So, 2-minute background about myself. I would consider myself I guess people consider me the poster child of development. I'm originally from Singapore, which is currently still classified as a developing country by the UN for various reasons, not because of GDP. But, I grew up in Singapore, my background is in law, I practiced for 3 years there and realized very quickly I could not be a lawyer I couldn't be a lawyer, A, and B, I could not be a lawyer in a place like Singapore. So I left with $2,000 in my pocket and I said, hey, I'm really curious about this international development poverty thing. Let's see how, what could happen. So I left with $2,000. I decided that I was just going to go to Thailand, and then from there I started an accidental career in international development, and then in law and development, and then most recently as in ICT for development. So fast forward, what is it now, 17 years later, I would consider myself, that was my quarter-life crisis. I consider myself in a midlife crisis. And, having lived in 13 different cities over the last 17 years, that hasn't been really that fun. So what I'm trying to do is to kind of ground myself here in the Bay Area and to do a lot more teaching. So that explains kind of, this class in the background. And I've taught various classes before. You can read my bio on my website. So with that as a background, I thought what we could do is first, we'll do the typical introductions, and what's most important to me is to listen about your goals. I think that coming from a practitioner's view, and particularly from a development practitioner's view, there's this whole needs assessment that needs to happen first and foremost. And we will learn about that if you decide to kind of go about with me through the class. And then we'll zoom in into the class, basically about the content itself and what you might expect to learn. Then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the logistics. And I think what's really important to me is to talk a little bit about the values for the class. And you will see that, I kind of do a lot. I do a lot of this teaching from a very project management kind of angle because that's my background. I manage project and I've managed international NGOs as well. And what I would like to listen to after that is to ask you for your recommendations for me as to how to make this, a useful class for you, if not one of the best classes you've ever attended. So with that in mind, I would love to hear a little bit about you, basically the typical stuff, but more so, sort of a background and why are you interested in this class, and think about what are the top 3 things that you really, 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 really want to get out from this class. Okay, so where should we start? Let's start in the middle, just to be different.
Back middle.
Back middle, and then let's go this way.
So my name's Tim, and I'm a high school student, a first-year student. And my interest, my background, I started off as a math major in college, and I added finance, and then got into computer science. I kind of just a big grab bag of unrelated weird stuff. But I got professional experience as a software developer, building really niche analytical tools, and I discovered I wanted to do something bigger with software, and that's when I got into entrepreneurship. I had a little NGO that I founded that used technology to help the homeless in America, and then I discovered the iSchool, and that iSchool has a specialty in ICTD, so I wanted to do my master's here to learn more about ICTD, and last semester I didn't get the chance to do that, but this semester I was speaking a lot with Jenna Burrell, and so she spoke to me about this course, and then I got the email, and I signed up, so here I am.
Yeah, cool. So your focus is in the U.S., your homeless NGO? I'm sorry, was
yes.
it?
Oh, yes. I can talk more about that. Well, yeah, there's pretty much a lot of relief organizations in the country. They struggle to find homeless people. And so I developed some mobile applications and web applications that they can use to track their locations. just GPS locations, and they can kind of go back and forth between headquarters and volunteers on the ground to synchronize with each other and better coordinate to really,
Yeah, and for everybody, at some point in the course, we will have this event called speaking. It's like a show and tell of any apps or projects that you're working on, but that will be later on. And so how are you getting interested in the international development side of things?
Well, I'm actually international. I'm half French. My mom's French, and I was raised from 5 to 17 in an international school.
Cool. Okay. Top 3 most pressing things you want to learn?
I want to know how to actually, from the ground up, start an ICTD project.
How to start an ICTD project? Okay.
The title of this course, I think, was Forever Pilot, and so my thing was a pilot that died. So Forever Pilot is pretty much why I'm here also.
Okay, that's great.
And the next thing is just to learn more about other kind of projects that are happening around the world, and just to kind of give me a little bit of inspiration for maybe next year's projects. I'm hoping I can do an ICTD project for a master's.
So basically, get a sense of what's going on out there, what works, what doesn't work, and all that. Anything else to add?
Yeah, well that was 3.
That was 3?
The Forever Pilot thing. And,
okay, how to start an ICT project and how to prevent Forever Pilot, right?
Yeah, or prevent, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just basic acceleration, like how to actually get it off the ground.
Cool. Okay, well let's move on.
Hi, my name is Erzu. I'm also a first-year MIM student. My background is civil engineering and applied math, and I just did a lot of random things, but I worked on a startup this summer where we emphasize social good aspect, and I'm very into the whole social entrepreneurship, but I realized if you wanted to go into social entrepreneurship, there's barriers on how to implement your projects, especially with fundraising. So what I want to get out of this is how to go with the implementation and management aspect.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about what are some of the things you want to learn, implementation.
Just how to deal with creating effective business models.
Okay, business
and
models.
Making them persuasive to funders.
Okay. Business models and funders. Who's out there? Who's funding what? How do we get a grant? How do we get a proposal going? That kind of thing. Okay.
Hi, my name is Chalengi. First year means my background, I did an undergrad in business studies and computing. I'm interested in mostly data analytics because that's what I did for my professional work, business analytics and business intelligence. But then for me, the most important key things for information technology is making development for people. So I came to the high school for the ICTD part, and if you're from Africa, most of the time people come with technology, they say we have this cool stuff and they dump it on people. There's no actual social impact of the technologies, and the people just okay, there are people who are interested in stuff, but then there's no sustainability of those projects. So those are the things that I want to learn. I also want to learn I know in the high school is the rich community. You can also get ideas about what other people are working on.
So basically also learn about other projects, right? And then you talked a lot about sustainability, and the whole dumping, right? Which I totally get because, for all of us that are in international development, either in a class or in the real world, these kinds of debates are very common in each and every project that we do. Any other pressing things that you want to get out of this class?
I think those.
Okay, great.
I'm AJ. I'm a second-year MIM student. My background before the high school was working in microfinance in Tanzania, so I worked there for about 2.5 years. Involved in basically the operations of a small microfinance company, lots of different things. And what brought me here was working on bank software and mobile payments software, and hating not being able to code it myself, and also that we were paying a lot for stuff that wasn't meeting our needs.
Right.
And also kind of half implementation of projects, either from lack of funding or lack of support or lack of buy-in on the ground in Tanzania. So I guess some pressing things I'm interested in learning is now that I've gotten some good technical at going into. Also, like kind of looking back at facilitating projects so that they can go from pilot to actually being a part of a company's operation, like a part of an organization's operations.
Right, so basically to operationalize and
Yeah,
perhaps even
operationalizing
scale up,
pilots.
right?
Yeah. And definitely scale is something that is talked about a lot
And
and
scale up.
pretty important for a project.
Okay, so I'm hearing, coding technical, which you think you're really good, better at right now than before, and some kind of operationalize and setting up of anything else?
Third thing.
You don't have to do a third thing, but
I don't know
it's
about
nice to be ambitious.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Okay.
Hi, I'm Eden, and I'm only going to be here for one semester. I'm from Denmark. I study digital design and communication in Copenhagen, and I have an undergraduate degree in information sciences. And I had one course about mobile communication in the Northern cultures. And I think I got very interesting, and yeah, I'm interested in the management part, also the business models, how you plan a project, and yeah,
Plan and management,
yeah.
okay, projects. Management of projects. Great, anything else to add?
No, maybe like go all the way implementation and innovation as well.
Right, actually Denmark and the EU, Denmark and the Scandinavian countries, and in particular EU, they're much more on the ICT4D bandwagon than the US side of things is. But we'll talk about that, when we talk about donuts and things like that.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm a second year in the Master of City Planning degree here at Berkeley, and my background is in economics, but I've worked at the intersection of the city and technology in terms of economic development before coming to do my master's. And my thesis is actually about impact sourcing, and so how to create low-skill employment for people specifically in informal settlements. So I'm hoping to learn about impact sourcing if it's possible, and situate my research.
Tell me a little bit about impact sourcing. You mean like basically a matching?
Yeah, so it's basically just outsourcing of low-skill tech jobs.
Labor, yeah.
Yeah, labor to people that face barriers to job entry usually.
And it's called impact sourcing?
Yeah.
I love it because I learn new things every day. Especially
it's a buzzword.
well, buzzword you'll learn is all the fad in international development, like it is in life. But okay, so impact sourcing, which reminds me, Christina. I know of a group of school students that are actually doing an app for low-skill labor, global, in the high school that actually took our class last semester. So I'm happy to hook you up with that.
Yeah.
So okay, impact sourcing and
So I'm trying to learn whether it's just another buzzword or if it can actually scale and train people, transferable skills, as it claims. And
buzzwords, what works, right? Basically, we're saying, everything, at some point, people talk about telecenters, and then now, telecenters have morphed into innovation labs, and innovation labs is now morphing into something else. So, okay, buzzwords, what works?
I'm also still, I don't know if other people are interested in specifically these technology innovations for the poor in the urban space, because there's a lot in the rural context. I'm specifically interested in
The urban poor?
the urban.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, with the trends, you're seeing a lot of migration flows, and the prediction is that, by 2025, there will be much more poor people in the urban areas than there would be in the rural areas. And so you're interested in the technology aspect of that, or the thinking behind it? What can we do to help the urban poor, or
I'm interested in where to situate these concepts within the kind of broader media theory, as well as what does it mean for policy? Can we actually create policy that will work? So more from that perspective.
okay, policy?
because I've never taken an ICT class before. So do you think it would be possible to have some theoretical background too, or do you think this is more applicable practice-based?
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. I guess the way that I would like to do this is to actually tailor the class to all of you. You know, I could probably teach this from a really theoretical basis, or we could, you know, it's a whole spectrum, right? Of whether you want to be like academic, totally academic, you know, reading research papers and how to do, you know, and these methodologies for M&E, or you're looking at the practitioners, which, you know, and it's an entire spectrum. And sometimes practitioners, we wing it. You know, I mean, you know, maybe I shouldn't be saying this for recording, but we do wing it, you know. So I guess where we want to kind of balance, I'm hoping to balance it out. So when you'll see, when it comes to the readings, I want to make them like short, you know, not the archaic, you know, 1960 readings by Rostro and the 5 stages of development, you know, like basically World Bank readings, things like that. But hopefully it will also give you enough of a conceptual background, because the problem with practitioners is that a lot of us did not come into, me included, did not come into the field educated. You know, so we're winging it, and that's why, in fact, the MVP program was started. You know, as I mentioned, the MVP students, this is the Masters in Development Practice, was started as a result of a grant from the, I think from the, not Rockefeller, from somewhere. But basically, they're saying, oh my goodness, you know, that these practitioners, especially the young maverick ones, that go out there and they're doing all these weird things from a winging point of view, and things are not working. So therein, you know, we need this really solid practitioner's education. So to answer your question, I hope it to be a good balance, but at the end of the day, I want to listen to all of you too.
Hi, my name is Tara. I am an undergrad, and I was originally a political economy major, and I developed like an interest in development and globalization, and then I was like, now I'm an ISF major, which is interdisciplinary studies, and like the reason I changed my major was like so I can have more like learn like more practical applications, or like I don't know, learn tools to like relieve my anxieties about like things that I haven't really learned about.
You're welcome. Sadly, the story is that anxiety never really lives.
So I was class shopping and I came across the ICTD, and like I didn't. I haven't like learned about ICTD before, but but it's something that I love to learn about, get exposed to, maybe like, I don't know, inspire some research interest, or even career, like get exposed to like different types of jobs and development that I don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like people are pretty experienced in this class. I think that's and it's anyway. So I guess like things I would like to learn is like more about ICTD and like what opportunities there are for that, and like that. Like
Okay, opportunities, like, you know, how do I find a job, right? What is international development life like, right? Can I get married, and are my kids going to college in Afghanistan? I mean, these are real questions, and these are questions that we would love to explore.
I'll throw my weight towards that too. I'm interested in
Yep. Okay.
but more specifically like ICTD opportunities, and you know, since it's still emerging, what do people who are interested in ICTD, what can they expect to work in, or you know?
Great, yeah. These are, and that's the angle that, you know, I would love to talk to you about, because a lot of us go in without really knowing what the truth is, you know, and then it becomes kind of awfully painful when either, you know, the divorce rates actually is extremely high in this field. No one has actually done a study for it, so it would be a good, you know, PhD project. Yeah, but don't be intimidated, because I think that what's really important, especially in the ICTD world, you'll find, I mean, like, you know, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later, but I'm hoping to share this class with MOOPS, which is Makerere University in Uganda. And they are so excited because they're starting with their e-learning platform, you know, and as of now, their professors are still grading using paper, not even an Excel sheet. And so I would say, no, don't, because there's a lot of things to be learned. And the thing about technology is that I find that the younger the people are, I learn a lot more. You know, it's so much easier to sell technology projects to the younger generation than it is to one of the stodgy, minister of communications, that already have their kind of stronghold stakeholder kind of position in them. So, you don't have to take the class, but don't be intimidated just because it's a graduate level class.
I also took a course which was open innovation and business models, which I really liked, and it really got me interested in tech and innovation. But I felt like the limit of that course was there was no social component to it.
Right.
So that's the other reason why I thought.
So social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, new business models, the long tail, that sounds like one of the reoccurring things that you are interested in too as a class. Awesome. Johnny?
I'm Johnny, and I'm a senior in the undergraduate business program. And I have a background in investment banking, and I'm just class shopping, and this class just looked interesting. And I guess I'm like a sponge. So I'm.
Did you say you're like a sponge?
Yeah,
Awesome,
I'm open to ideas, and just open to learning about other projects around the world, and possibly how to start one. Since I know
Start one?
Yeah, because I know a lot of investment bankers leave after 2
Yeah,
years.
because you're from the business school. I love that. Yeah, start one. Start a project. Anything else? Any other pressing things, Johnny?
No.
Just okay. Anything to add on this list? Like anything that we've missed out that we would like to address during this course? Oh, and I'm sorry. Let me move. This is me just trying to be different, right? Starting in the middle of the back row. Please.
Hi, I'm Diego. I'm a second-year student at the Energy Resources Group. I'm from Mexico City, and my research is on large-scale and small-scale renewables integration into transmission grid and microgrids. And my 3 things I wish to learn is how ICT projects fail.
How they fail?
How they fail.
The rest of us want to learn how they succeed. I'm just kidding. How they fail. Yeah, and how they fail.
So finding the marriage between what you're interested in proposing a solution and what people actually need. So I
Okay.
feel like those 2 things are completely different most of the time.
Need versus solution, which is a little bit like what Gay was saying too. There's one laptop per child, we all need to use it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Yes, and
Hi, I'm Lauren. Sorry for coming late. The golf
No,
cart
not
was
at all.
really late to drive me here because I'm on crutches.
you hobbled in, I'm more than honored.
I'm a senior undergraduate, a double major in legal studies and political economy, and I'm hoping after graduation to work in development for a year or 2 before applying to law school. And I'm really interested in information technology and intellectual property. And I really, as she was saying about political economy major, I kind of wanted to create a concentration about technology and development, but they're really worried about like the theoretical versus the practical, which frustrates me a lot because I want to learn the practical tools for when I graduate and I'm actually in the field. That's why I'm interested in this class. And I actually, for a really long time at Cal, didn't know that they offered courses like this. And I'm a tour guide, and I would give tours and be like, oh, this is the iSchool. And people would be like, what's the iSchool? And I was like, I don't know. And so then one day I was like, maybe I should figure out what it is because I have to tell people on my tours. And then I realized that it was like exactly what I wanted to study. So it's kind of like a cool twist of fate. And I took a class with Deidre Mulligan last year, technology and delegation, and that kind of started my whole interest in this field.
Awesome. So your interest is in the legal intellectual property side of things?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So IP, intellectual property. Wow, my handwriting is becoming worse. Anything else to add?
I'm also interested in learning about why they fail as well, as he was mentioning. Just like I know a lot of times they bring in these projects like stovetops or things like that that they think are going to work, and then no one adopts them. So those kind of that background as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing. And the concerns that you have, honestly, these things that you list, fortunately, unfortunately, these are the same issues that people are discussing during a high-level World Bank meeting or a high-level sort of, USAID meeting. Why do they fail? How do we make it work? What actually works in real life? What is the context of how, what is the learning about best practices and how do we apply in international development, and then how do we apply it to ICTD? So on that note, what I wanted to point out is our class is essentially very similar to what you guys, want to learn. If you look at ICT4D as a learning ecosystem, there are, first and foremost, ICTD wasn't even a thing until maybe about the late 1990s because of the internet boom. And then the evangelists basically came out and say, oh wow, this is technology and you can leapfrog, it's like cell phones. The developing countries do not need to put landlines anymore. And so what happened is that because it's such a new field, people come into this field from all kinds of angles. And there wasn't even a real kind of program, like kind of studies for ICTD. In fact, up to maybe about 10 years ago, there wasn't really even a good solid program on international development in practice. Therein again the MVP program, right? Which is why it got implemented. So the thinking is that so if you look at there are some master's programs out there right now. Cambridge is one of them. London School of Economics is another one. That's sort of like a 1-year or 2-year master's program that focuses exactly on ICTD. So what we're going to do in this course is actually a crash course. It's sort of like we're taking this whole program with a practice angle and condensing it into one semester. So you can see that it's fairly ambitious. So what we're going to learn is these things that you've identified, they're very contextual or conceptual. What works? What's out there? What do we do if somebody dumps, technology on a country? How do we address certain population groups, urban poor, women, young girls, etc. And then there's a part of it that's about the technology, and I'm actually, in a way, glad, but not surprised that nobody says, well, I want to learn coding, right? Because I code a little bit, but I'm certainly not a coder. But this is the technical side of things. And, to be successful in ICTD, we need to know sufficient, just enough about technology to be able to talk, to be sort of the link between your project managers and your donors, and also your techies. And that's a major niche and big need. And so this is the technical part. But because it's not a sort of a IT course, we're going to look at applications per se. So basically, mobile applications, what are people using in e-health, what kind of platforms, etc. And to be very, very honest, probably about 95% of all projects that are out there right now in the developing world, especially the ones that have a chance of succeed, are very low tech. You're talking about a website, or mobile email blast, or mobile phone voter registration per se. So we'll look at different applications. And this is what I constantly hear at the iSchool, the management side of things, my background is in law. I mentioned that I did my master's at the University of Washington in public administration. So it's sort of like an MBA, but with a public administration focus. So this is the part that, a lot of students in the iSchool, especially the master's students, because these are the folks that are actually going out to get a job. They're looking at, forget about all the, research questions that are so archaic. Let's talk about what really works in real life. And so we would focus on this as well. So the way that I'm structuring the course is that if you look at that, we're looking at these 3 things and we'll move through it throughout the course. We'll talk about, right now we're talking about introduction to this course. We'll talk about, what is development from a conceptual, but also from a practical manner, including jobs. What is ICTD? How do you get jobs in ICTD? Who does what, right? So these are just the conceptual side of things. Then we'll move on to actual applications. What happens in each of these areas? Overarching issues of technical applications will be things like infrastructure, policy, how do you come up with a good ICTD education policy, for example. We'll talk about telecenters, agriculture, and then we'll move on to health education, microfinance, and then we'll talk, on a higher level with governance and law. And and these things can be tailored. So, I want to hear too about what's interesting for you. And this is the part that I would actually like to get real world practitioners to actually come talk to us about what actually happens in the real world. Okay, then we'll move on to the management side. And you'll see that I put in an extra week for that because that's such a big demand, especially in high school. And so, we'll move through the project life cycle. How do you do a needs assessment? How do you fundraise? How do you implement? How do you actually solve problems? How do you do monitoring and evaluation? And then how do you scale up or kill the project? Because sometimes there are good reasons to kill the project. So that's sort of how the class conceptually is structured. And any questions, feedback, comments?
So the more academic part is the conceptual piece. What does the theory coming about?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it's that conceptual. Let me show you something, because I'm going to give you an example about what the conceptual is, right? So if we look at this, and this is our class website. Do you know what a QR code is, right? So that it takes you to the class website, and if you look at the schedule and materials, so you see, for example, what is international development, right? So this is the type of readings that you'll be reading. For example, the theories of international development. So instead of the archaic things, this is actually a class by, I think it's London School of Economics, that actually talks about, broad-based. So you get a really broad introduction to everything. We'll talk about measurement. You read Wikipedia. What's basically saying? In fact, Wikipedia is saying, please, if you're an international development expert, please help us develop this. They have an international development portal to Wikipedia. How do you measure it? And then does international development work? Okay, so you see these debates that run from, yes, we need these first world countries to solve the problems that they imposed on us because of imperialization, to, oh my goodness, these are people that are dumping their things on us. And then we'll talk about development career jobs. DevEx.com is, you can read about ABC of development jobs, career transition. So you see that the type of readings that we have is really broad. And what I'm trying to do is balance this, the conceptual part with the concrete practical side of things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So that's just a sample. Any other questions on the class structure before we actually go into the class website and the details? Okay, so on that note, so if you look at the class website, the overview will show that it just talks about essentially how the class is structured, which is this thing. Oh, one second, where's my slide page? And teaching strategies that I want to talk about. I'll share a little bit with you. So what I am hoping to do, and this is sort of my belief, right, that because we are talking about ICT for D, and one of the trends or the buzzword is open development, sharing, peer production, online education resources, open education. So what I'm hoping to do is actually to see if I could share this course with other people that are out there in the public that might be interested. I don't know how that looks like. I know that Mercury University, one of my good friends is a professor at the business school, and he's interested in running a concurrent class where I will be the co-facilitator. And what I'm hoping to do is that essentially we would actually have a platform where we could all share. So that's sort of my eventual goal. So we'll talk about grading and evaluation in a little bit. And right now I want to talk a little bit about the schedule. So as you see, the schedule is essentially, we're meeting Monday, Wednesdays, and we will talk a little bit, when we talk about the logistics side of things, about how we can cater to the MVP students, or if we want to. So familiarize yourself with this website. This is sort of the central part of things. And all the materials will be here. And what I'm hoping to do, we'll see how this goes, is to, if I could continue to record this, because what the MVP people were telling me was, well, maybe we could do an e-learning module for Wednesdays. So they would come on Mondays, because there's no conflict, and then Wednesdays could be an e-learning module for them. I don't know if that's going to work, but we could talk about that. in a collaborative manner later. So essentially, this is sort of your central place for all the materials, and I'm hoping to upload the videos and everything. So anyone that's interested, if you have friends who are like, oh my gosh, I'm dying to learn about ICT4D because this is my passion, and if I don't learn about it, I'm gonna die with regrets. Please just ask them to follow along with our class, because what we're gonna have is we're gonna have a mini MOOC-like thing. Are you familiar with what a MOOC is? What's a MOOC? Anybody knows what a MOOC is?
Massive open online course.
Maybe share with your colleagues about why this is a buzzword right now or if you think it is for higher education.
Why is MOOC a buzzword?
Oh, what is it?
Basically, so it's like the acronym says, a massively open online course. So it's online course that's open for anyone to join, and by nature of the course being taught by like a rock star professor at a major university, it draws a massive number of students to take the class. So
Right.
it's
So
on Berkeley's campus.
And so, when we actually go into the technical side of things on the education side of, e-education, one of the things you will learn about too is the concept of MOOC, right? The concept is, wow, there are all these resources. Why are people reinventing the wheels? Why not just share them out there? Now, they're still trying to come up with a bit because they're saying, well, should we just give them 2 classes for free and then we charge for the rest, or should we charge them for a certificate? But essentially, UC Berkeley is sort of with some big institution that's actually holding a MOOC, but we're not going to do it this way. We're just going to do it in a scattered sort of practitioner wing it kind of way. So I don't know, if people are interested, just follow our class and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Okay, so let me move on to assessments and about me. You know about me. You can go to my website and you'll probably know more about me than you ever want to. Okay, so for the assignments, I think what's important to me and why I structured it this way is because I want this class to be relevant to you. So I want half of it to be sort of blog posts and discussions, and also networking in the ICT kind of way, so that you actually know what are the ICT groups that are out there. Can I network with the World Bank ICT group, who's in LinkedIn, who's in Facebook? There's a Facebook ICT4D group that has 2,000 members. Why not tap into the networks that already exist? So I want this to be practice oriented, and that they're in the blog post, and I'll talk a little bit more about it maybe in a future date, or if you're interested, you can ask and I can tell you about what is required. But essentially, my idea is that right now I have a temporary blog. It's Barefoot Lawyers, which is sort of my social entrepreneurship, and it's just a platform. But one of the other 50% is on live projects. These are live consulting projects that I either have or have a potential of having. So one of the things would be the iSchool's ICT4D Center. If you look at our iSchool website, we claim that we have an ICT4D Center, but we don't. So one of the things that the professors have, there are 4 professors listed, but there's nothing there. So I was like, well, you have all these resources here, why not just, leverage it? And, this is me being an entrepreneur, project manager type of thing, but professors are generally from a more, they speak a different language. So I was like, why not have this class, have the students do really clever blogs, and then just kind of post it into the ICT4D website, except that they don't have one. That's why this is a live project. So in the meantime, we just need a platform to send our posts. And what I'm hoping to do is just to have you guys link in with the networks that are already out there posting about ICT4D, so that and cross-post the blogs, have people come to do comments. And what you learn in that process is the networking aspects, and also what's happening right now in the kind of vibe, the culture that's going on within not just ICT4D communities, but online communities in this day and time. So that's what I'm hoping to do with the 50% blog post. So each of you will be posting 2 blog posts, and you're responsible for marketing that blog post, cross-posting it, whatever, and you'll be graded on the content of the blog post, as well as your ability to get audience and to read it and moderate the comments. That's one. And you can have it either be a choice, that's your pet project, or it could be an upcoming week topic for class. So that's one. Possible life projects, you know, I've had students, and we're probably going to get maybe another, I'm guessing, 8, 9 students join us from NDP, and also some folks that are not able to make it to class today because they're still in their home countries. Where students have said, well, you know, I have my own project, can I work on that? Yes, you know, come talk to me, we'll make it work. But these are the projects that I have real clients for, and what I'm hoping to, this is what I'm doing right now. So what I'm hoping to do is to kind of rope you guys in, like meeting chief consultant or project manager, and basically connect you with them through the project. So here's some projects, but you're not tied into them, and if you have other ideas, please throw them out. So the first one is the ICT Donor Landscape. This one is with the Asia Foundation, which is based in San Francisco. They are trying to kickstart an ICT4D project, so the high-level project manager is basically saying, you know, what's out there right now? Who can I get funding from? Can you write me a paper on what's out there? So what I was thinking and putting on my entrepreneur hat is, instead of writing a paper, why don't we just make it live, you know, and have it interactive and see what are the RFPs that are out there. And I don't know, maybe there's a business model there, because, you know, you're talking about big funding. I'm sure people, and this hasn't really been done before, not for ICT4D. So that's one possible. Second one is the iSchool ICT4D Center. This, you know, we could talk a little bit more about it, but like I said, there's an ICT4D Center listed, but there's no ICT4D Center. So I was like, well, you know, I'm here, why don't we just get something going? It could be a few things. We could have a business plan, and then follow up with a proposal. It could just be an assessment about, like, you know, there's so many ICT4D centers, and actually you will see that the trend is that it's no longer trendy to have an ICT4D center, because, and then we'll talk about trends in a little bit, but ICT4D honestly is not that like cool anymore. Should we do that? You know, should we morph it? How would it look like? So that's another project we could do. Donation of global ebooks. This is a client that has been donating books globally forever. I mean, they're donating not library books, but it's a form of dumping, actually, telling me, but maybe it's a good form of dumping, I don't know. But essentially, you know, publishers, when they have access books, McGraw-Hill and all the publishers, they basically give it away so that they get a tax write-off, and then they don't have to pay for warehouse storage. So it's a win-win for everyone. Go ahead.
That sounds like you're describing paper books.
Yep, paper books, yep. And so what the client is basically saying right now is, oh no, you know, the landscape is really changing. These publishers are not giving us books anymore. They are doing more and more ebooks. Our livelihood and our identity as a book donator globally is shrinking. You know, we're going to become borders that would not be relevant anymore. What are new business models that we can do? Can we donate ebooks, you know, or should we close business altogether? So this is sort of a business strategy kind of thing, and I'm in the midst of consulting for them. But yeah, so that's another one that we could kick in. Social enterprise for international development, rule of law training e-courses. That one is my own personal favorite, because I'm hoping to get more and more into teaching right now, doing rule of law online teaching in a way that's innovative. And so we're looking at new pedagogies, you know, new technologies, what helps with developing countries, and how do we come up with a business model. So, and then the last project is one that one of my good friends came to me and said, oh my gosh, you know, I want to start this online therapy thing globally. And she's got some, they formed a group, she's a therapist here in the Bay Area, and she's formed a group, they've gotten some funding, they don't know how to do it. So it's basically a startup. They want to make some money out of it, but their idea is that there are these, for example, in Rwanda, one of the big things is that, especially in post-war and transition countries, one of the big things is a big need for counseling and therapy. And it's not one of those things that international development donors believe in. So, you know, how do we reach out to them? So that's the kind of business, technical thing that they're trying to ask. So these are some of the live projects that I'm working on right now. You're welcome to jump on the bandwagon, and, you know, we could work together. Otherwise, you're welcome to do your own projects. You are welcome to work in groups. which is great because you leverage resources, and that's what real world is like. But I also know how it is like in graduate school to work in groups, so I leave it up to you. You could pick your own project. So any questions on the assignments? Or comments?
I saw the understand the blog posts, how you're creating the blog, or I think I understand how you're creating it, but what are the blog posts about?
So the blog post would be about ICT4D, obviously. So it could be anything, a topic that you're interested in, as long as it's ICT4D related. You know, you can visit the World Bank website and also the DevX website to see the quality of blog posts that they have, and I want ours to be like that, so that you could actually, you know, and if you could get yours cross-posted up to the World Bank, that would be awesome, because you can have that in your resume. So any ICT4D topic that you're interested in, or you could, you know, kind of pick one module that we're doing, and then blog about it the week before, so that and it's going to be due the Sunday before the Monday class.
So where do we post them and how often?
Okay, so basically so I have a sign-up sheet. I didn't know how big the class would be, so the requirement is that everybody would be doing 2 blog posts throughout the quarter. So I leave it to you, and what I'm hoping to do is to have it spread out. So depending on the number of students in class, and also the number of students that are interested in like hopping onto this class as an online whatever, what I would love for you to do is that there is a Google sign-up spreadsheet, and you can just write in which slots you want. So if there is, so I think there are 15 classes, which means there should be 15 blog posts, right? So depending, so you know, if there are way more than that, then there could be double blog posts every week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And about the project, so you say we have an idea, we can try to develop it. How would that work if you have an idea for a project?
You come talk to me, and then we'll have to see if it qualifies as sort of a ICT4D project. I know that as talk to me. You know, I think what's really important to me is that this is useful to you. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about core values. Why is this important? I don't know. Who have managed projects before? Have you ever talked about like values? You know, this is our mission statement, our vision statement. Why is that important? Is it some kind of woman thing? You know, actually, someone has told me that before, and I think it was in Bangladesh. It's like it's a woman thing. Why? Why is it important to have values?
If you have values or like a mission statement, it keeps you focused on the project and not get sidetracked.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had experience with either one?
Yeah, I was working on a farmer's market project, and we just kept getting sidetracked, and then at the end of the day, we're like, with what's our mission statement, and by going back and just reading that one sentence, we're like, okay, let's get back to the project.
Right. And do you know that there are actually like classes? I promise there are actually semester-long classes that talk about how to write a mission statement. You know, is it 15 words, 17 words? You use proactive pronouns, you use I. They do that. And then, you know, what's the difference between a mission statement, a vision statement, and value statement? So
I sort of disagree a little bit with that it keeps you on track. Sometimes your values can get on the way of actually getting things done. Say if we're in a country that's really corrupt, and the only way to make a deal is to actually like put some money on the table to make things happen.
Yep.
And if you can't adapt to the culture that you're working in, then no matter what idea you have, and your values being so strong, it's not gonna.
that's true. Or maybe your values could be we can be flexible.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's really true. I mean, I was running Microjustice, which is an international NGO based in The Hague, and we, you know, and the Europeans, well, donors are very sticky about corruption for good reasons, and we could talk about that, you know, during the class. How do we cope with that? So basically, their value system is absolutely zero corruption. And then, of course, you know, in Uganda, they're like, you know, you want us to come for this workshop, you have to give us transport money, you know, per diems, you know, off pay. So how do we balance that? You know, then that's something that we still debate about in the real world. Great. Any other comments about values? So why is it important to me? I feel like it's important to us as a class, right? Because I have some goals about this class. For me, these are actually my core values that I'm throwing out there, and I would love for you to say, oh my God, no way, we can't share this because we're paying, $5,000 in tuition, and what, these people are doing it for free? I'm open to that. So, let me share with you what's important to me. I think that, after this long in international development, one of the things that it's a personal goal of mine to be able to share, because it's really weird. It's sort of like a schizophrenic kind of experience. I mean, every time I'm in Afghanistan or I'm in, well, not Kenya. Kenya is not a good example, but maybe not even Tanzania, but Afghanistan or Bangladesh or Pakistan. You go to the stores and there's absolutely nothing there. I mean, you can't even find like a loaf of bread. I remember I was trying to find bread in China and in rural China, and they only had like the sweet bread. And then I come back to Lucky's, and then I see this like, oh my gosh, this massive, lots of shelves and shelves of bread, and I couldn't decide. And so I don't know. I think it's a personal thing. I really would like to share. And the reason why I'm even a poster child of development is because a lot of folks that I've met along the way when I was in Thailand or whatever, they're like, hey, you seem like a smart, enthusiastic person. Okay, well, and that was actually how I actually got into graduate school. I didn't even have to pay tuition. I got a scholarship. So it's my way of giving back. So that's why. And then ideas and innovation in learning. That's one of my, I would say, maybe midlife crisis goals. I have a family right now. I'm going to be based in the Bay Area. I've lived apart. I've lived in boxes for the last 16 years, and so I really would like to, and I love teaching. I've never really stopped teaching. So what I would love to do is, because this is an ICT 4D class, is actually to use this as my own platform to experiment with ICT 4D in learning. So what I would love ideas and innovation in thinking about how can we share this class, and what works and what doesn't. And I don't know, we'll have to experiment, and that's actually part of how international development projects, I just can go, I don't know, we can't have a blueprint, let's just try and see, as long as we don't hurt anyone. So, anybody knows what's the agile method? Any software developers here, or challenging?
Usually the agile development methods usually works like when you have a problem, but you actually don't have the solution at hand. So you are working repetitively in iteration, like you start from somewhere, you define the project, then set out the goals. Then so it's a rapid method of trying to develop something, especially for software. So it's focused on individuals rather than process. The usual method of doing things is like you set out the plan, then execute it at the end, then try and reassess if what you did works. But with agile, you're like working in short steps and continuously assess.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Did everybody get that? It's sort of like it's a software development term, and it's the contrast is the waterfall method, right? So if you think about software development, they would be like, here's a blueprint, let's do the requirements analysis, all this planning, and then we implement it in these 5 steps. Weirdly enough, that sounds very, very familiar with the way development theory used to be. It was like, okay, here's a country, right? Here's a blueprint. What do they need to do? And the World Bank used to do that. They used to be like, okay, we need to implement, some kind of restrictive monetary policy. Okay, here are 10 steps. Plunk, do it. And that's usually how, software development and international development used to be. Years later, people are going, wait a minute, this is not what I want. You spent like $50,000 on this software and you're giving me this thing. And so therefore, the backlash is, well, let's now do it in a more iterative way. Think Microsoft, okay, versions come out every 5 years, right? And then it comes out, it's fairly perfect, with some little bugs, but fairly perfect. Then think Google, you go in and you go, what? They changed the interface again, what? There's this new lab. So it's a new way of, I guess, management. But the way I'm putting it down here is that I would love to use this method, to basically see how this kind of learning can work globally. And like I said, it's a big experiment. And I really want to learn from you guys. I think that one of the things about coming back to school, is that it's just so cool. When I was in graduate school, nobody used laptops in class, and then now I'm like, wow, I can actually use a laptop. And then also to be tech curious, let's walk the talk, let's try all kinds of technology and see, what sticks. So that's sort of some of my values. What I want to hear from you now is what you think of this, and also what is important to you. Any feedback, and what's a value system that's important to you?
I would like to read a few really good papers from this Zen ICTD magazine.
You might need to write it first.
Like the De Soto and like development practitioners and how to do development. That would be nice.
You compare De Soto to Zen?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know, because he had an approach that was sit back and see what's happening around you before taking any action. And before you take any action, think about it again.
So but you're talking Zen, like basically be more mindful kind of thing? Or
Yes.
are you talking about like, let's learn the concepts?
Both.
Both.
I don't know what Zen is.
Me neither, I just threw it in. There is a small movement right now, especially in law, those of you who are interested in law, called mindful law. That's because lawyers are so jaded and burnt out and sort of dissatisfied with life that people decided that they need to introduce some kind of spiritual, yoga-y, new age type of thinking. Actually, there is a mindfulness center at the law school here. Mindful development.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Actually, having done this for so long, that's the only way I can survive. Because otherwise you go in there with this like, oh wow, this is how development needs to be done. Oh my gosh, why aren't they listening to me? Why do they need per diems to come, And it's like, well, giving them travel to come to the US to visit these courts, to be able to see how court reform is done. And they're like, well, we would only go if you would give us a laptop each. So, how do you come to some kind of internal equilibrium with that? So okay, the mindful development. Any other value system? Also, feel free to comment about, any of this. I want to especially get a sense of this sharing side of things. How do you feel about that? Is it okay that if we, share our PowerPoints and maybe the videos of our class without you guys online? What's your take on that? Any violent objections? Okay, good. Anything to add? Christina?
I think there's a lot of idealism and kind of technological determinism, kind of what you were saying with the dumping of technology that exists. And so therefore, I imagine we'll probably take a pretty critical standpoint. But I would also like to think realistically, especially when we talk about big institutions like the World Bank or UN, to think what's actually possible. So being realistic as well is critical.
Okay.
It's kind of a reminder throughout the course.
Right. I see that as being, part of being mindful development. Basically, how do you, for example, Jonah comes to you.
How much of this, sorry, it's a little bit off topic, but how much of this course is going to focus on social enterprise and how much should it? I mean, I know this is ICTD and social enterprise, I think should be conceptually totally different, but I mean, you just mentioned a lot of your in-practice social enterprise stuff in the pipeline, and because that's just kind of a whole area in itself.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were planning on talking about that at all, or if there's any place for it in this
Well, that's a
class.
good point. Tell me a little bit about why you think ICTD and social enterprise is sort of different or mutually exclusive.
Well, I think that there are a lot of social enterprises that use technology, but I would not say that the majority of them do, and I wouldn't say that any of them need to. It's more of like an approach to development, whereas ICTD, because of ICT in the word, it has entirely, it's focused on technology and how that can be used, and when it's used, it's not necessarily with the business plan in mind. I mean, they're just two different topics in my mind, or maybe I'm wrong. But.
Right. Well, it depends on how you define what a social enterprise is. I think the way that we would look at it here is essentially as a type of business model. Because I think that at the end of the day, there is, you can implement an ICT4D project in a way that is very, very NGO based. So basically, okay, we don't need it to be sustainable. After 5 years, we'll just get a grant, get it renewed.
Right.
Right? You could do an ICT project from bottom of the pyramid kind of angle, which is, okay, you know, we'll implement these mobile phones to these farmers that expect them to pay, like a microfinance model, expect them to pay market rate and sometimes even higher than market rate. So that's a very purely for-profit model. I think where the world is coming right now is that, you know, there's this sort of, this criticism, right? NGOs are too, you know, wishy-washy core values, you know, and they don't have very good business models. And then there's this criticism towards private enterprises that says, okay, you know, these are just money-making, money-hungry folks, and they don't care about social consequences. So you see what happens is that the world is sort of moving into this social entrepreneurship. Now, what does that mean? Because you could study about it, it's a business, it's a philosophy, I guess, more than it is a structure in itself. Because you could be an NGO and still be a social enterprise. You could also be a for-profit and be a social enterprise. And I think that, with the way that things are going right now, it is not that mutually exclusive. It's not like ICT development projects are actually being implemented as NGO projects these days. There is a lot more donor pressure, I would say, in the last decade for sustainability.
Okay.
And they've defined sustainability in a variety of different ways, but at this point in time, they're talking about, you know, be a social entrepreneurship, you know, how we don't care. So that's why I think that what we would talk about, you know, would be under the contextual side of things as we move into the technical side to explore what are the new trends in the world of ICT4D. And you hear these buzzwords, you know, social enterprise, you know, private flows, bottom of the pyramid, you know, do not do. In fact, there are evangelists that says NGOs are bad because what you do is that you really disrupt the market there when the private market should be actually taking care of the things. So, you know, these are all philosophical questions, but, so I don't know if I answered your question.
Will we be focusing on a lot of ICT projects that are sustainable? Will that be the majority, like, or is it going to be a lot about, you know, NGO ICT projects?
I think that from the international development side of things, you'll see that there are a lot of branches. They come from the private sector side, and then they come from the NGO side and the donor side.
Okay.
I think that, you know, what we consider ICT4D in the literature, at least in industry, is more or less from the NGO side, although that side is very blurred right now.
Okay.
You know, and in fact, I mean, I just came back from Cambodia where USAID was basically saying, okay, here's a startup grant for $3 million, but to do an innovation lab, right, whatever that is, because tele centers have now morphed into innovation labs, and if you stick to this class, you hear how, why and how. But tele centers don't book anymore, innovation labs do. Here's $3 million, you've got to set up this innovation lab in Cambodia, you design it as a proposal, and then you become sustainable after 3 years. How do we do it? Fee for service, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, that's a sort of, you see a lot more pressure in the real world for these kinds of projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other thoughts about values? Okay, so given the consensus of given time, let's talk a little bit about the logistics. Okay, so the class ecosystem, the way that I'm thinking is that it's weird because I was doing some research on e-learning, and there's a lot of debates out there. You'll find at this stage in my career, I'm basically finding a lot of parallels in how people are doing debates right now. So there are these so the class ecosystem, you can say, well, you know, if you want to do anything online, it would be a closed system, like a Moodle. You need to sign up, and then everything is here. And then on the other extreme, everybody's like, okay, let's share everything. I don't know which one is right. I'm just experimenting. But what I'm thinking is that, okay, we need, at the very least, we need a website, right, where we have sort of our class materials, our readings, our syllabus, whatever. So this is sort of the public place. And then because of your assignments, you would have a blogging platform. And I don't know what this is right now yet. I mean, right now I'm just borrowing from my own, you know, Barefootwear's platform. But I'm hoping that this can morph if someone is interested in the ICTD project. I'm hoping to get a website up that the good blog posts with the discussions can eventually be migrated to the ICT Center website. we don't even have one right now. So, at the very least, give the high school some kind of presence, and you can, put this on your resume, developed, I don't know, design, develop, did requirements analysis for ICTD Center. So there's a blogging platform that I'm borrowing from mine right now. Then there will be, whatever projects you want, your own project collaboration. And what I would like you to do is to basically act like consultants. Basically keep your time sheets, give me an invoice at the end of every month. Usually it's within 14 days. So you get a sense of what real world practice is like if you're a consultant. So that's your project, and this would be closed, right? This is basically public. So anybody who wants to do the class with us online can blog and discuss on this platform. And then I'm hoping to have a discussion forum, and I'm thinking of using Facebook. So Facebook has, I know privacy is a lot of concerns, but they have a group that is not open, it's called closed. They have open, closed, and secret. And a closed group is essentially where people know that you're with this group, but you don't have to friend each other to be in this group. And no one can see your postings outside of this group. So I thought that instead of using like the old-fashioned email list, which is so 2010, maybe we could use like a Facebook group. I don't know, but basically what I'm thinking is, if you guys have any, this is sort of a private discussion kind of thing, which is equivalent to the good old discussion, like when is this assignment due? What's the meaning of life? That kind of thing. So I don't know if Facebook is the thing. So this is sort of what I'm thinking the ecosystem is going to be like. And then what I'm hoping to do is to basically, use, and this is essentially how you would design ICT projects anyway. You look at ecosystem and go, well, we need a satellite public radio for this particular rural village in Nepal. And then how do we actually get information channel in and out? So each of these, whatever it is, could be the email lists that we have. You can sign up for that, but that would just point you to this part. We could have another Facebook public group or whatever that would point. I was thinking, we could do a hashtag for the class. So things just kind of flow in here. So what it means is that people who are interested to take this class with us would then join us on this side of things. And maybe this side, I don't know, something like that. So what is your sense about this idea? Any feedback, best practices from your own past? Violent objections?
And okay, so just sharing information and conversing would happen on a private Facebook group.
Yeah. So basically, it's in lieu of a class discussion list, which I don't know how many of you actually find email lists useful, but I get lost with all the email lists. And in this day and time, and especially, I was thinking that if we're going to open it up to developing countries, Facebook is a country, the third largest country in the world, after China and India. So everyone has a Facebook account, and that was what I was telling my friend who's a professor at MOOCs. He's like, what's the email list? We don't know, but he just created a Facebook group. So, yeah. I don't know.
I think it makes more sense. I hate email lists.
Yeah. So maybe we can try it. If it doesn't work, then we'll use the agile method and go back to good old email. So is this agreeable, more or less, to people who might be interested? But if you have any other thoughts or ideas or whatever, please just send them my way, because I'm still learning about all these new technologies too. Who knows? Maybe we can have an iSchool i190 app that is between us. That would actually have a GPS tracker and track each of us, so that I would know if you're 20 feet away from me.
Kind of a more left field idea would be to have a GitHub repository for the whole class.
Oh, GitHub! Wow. Okay. Trying to sell your idea.
So selling my idea.
I like GitHub. I actually have some projects there.
I mean, you can forget about all the barriers about working with code using GitHub. You can literally do all this with the web interface, using the repository as like a place to put blog posts and things like that, and then using also as a place to like maybe curate some information about the class, and then using
where your repository is, right? So that's where I would be uploading my files, my, the videos and things like that. But it doesn't have a wiki function, right?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, it does? So basically you create a wiki out of that as well, and then have
It's
your...
separate from the repository of whatever your code base or documents.
Are these the same platforms?
Yeah,
They're the same
All of them.
platforms? So one login, but people still have to sign up, right?
that's true.
Yeah. See, this is the whole sign up thing. I mean, I get annoyed every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I already have like 17,000 user accounts and 20,000 passwords. I do not want to sign up for another one. I don't know.
Well,
Anybody familiar with GitHub?
I mean, if you don't have to sign up to view the files, though, right?
No, it's
Yeah. So
everything that's on there is open, so you don't have to sign up to look at anything. But
yeah, and you can't.
in order to
But how are you going to
make
discuss
change-
though?
But you can't share the files on Facebook anyway. So we need a new system for doing that.
Well, the files will be on our public site.
Oh.
You know what I mean? The video files and the links to the readings, they're not going to be any like major files aside from videos and PowerPoints.
And how would people
But-
collaboratively
so
share it?
Where I would argue that GitHub is better is if someone is familiar with the workflow using GitHub, anyone can make a request to add a resource to our class, even someone outside of the class. So you can authorize like all the class participants as contributors, and we can make changes. Someone outside of the class can see all the resources but can't make changes. But they can still make a pull request. To
So
say, here's
you-
a change I suggest.
Right.
that you include."
So the advantage of this over this system is that essentially you have some control over the backend. I.e., you want to change the wiki, you notice I've made a grammar mistake, and you want to change that kind of thing, which I always do. Coming from Singapore, Chinese language has no grammar.
But I don't know how complex you expect the website to be. But if I don't know, were you envisioning people to collaboratively add files?
The
Or only
website
you would
is a
add
class
files?
website. So essentially, if you look at the class website, you're looking at just it's basically a Google Sites, So it's public, but although I can set permissions, but I just wanted to sort of make it public. And what I thought I would do is have these essentially people who want to take the class would just click here, post class materials, okay, lecture PowerPoint 1, video 1. But GitHub, I don't know, I could look into that.
I mean, and also as a point of support, people do use GitHub to author books.
I
And
know,
so it's not
GitHub
just
is a
a
cool geek thing though. And that's exciting to me because it's like, hey, it's this cool geek thing. For those of you who do not know, GitHub is essentially just a big database of people for collaboration, and it started with a history of software collaboration. So if you look at Mozilla or Firefox or all these, free and open source, they used and still are using GitHub, as sort of the place to go to. So it's a very, very geeky thing to do. That's why I like it. I'm like, oh, I'm on GitHub. We could do that. What do the rest of you think?
I think whatever the easiest CMS is, you should use it.
Yeah. I'm not even using a CMS. That's the thing. I do not want, a proprietary thing. I just thought, okay, let's just open up everything. Everybody has a Facebook account. All you need to do is just, I could add you guys, and you can also add other people. The website is public. You do not need to sign in. The blogging platform, basically what is required from you is just for you to comment, which is open. You can just sign in using OpenID or Google. And it's on BlogHub. And you don't have to have access to it unless you want to. You can just send me the blog, send me the post, and I could just post it and say, posted by AJ. Please respond. Otherwise, I could send you an invite if you want. That's easy enough. Well, how about maybe we could stick with this, see if it works. I'm kind of excited about the GitHub idea. We could discuss this on Facebook, maybe. So, maybe what I could do is I'll just start that, and that could be a discussion topic, and we could ask those folks that are not here today whether they want to use GitHub. Is that okay? But that's a great suggestion. All right. Any other ideas on the ecosystem? It's just that I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible so that you don't have to sign up for yet another thing. You're not going to get indoctrinated by anything. So basically, all you need to do is just know that just visit your Facebook page for announcements, and all road leads to Rome. Everything will be coming there. wrap up, let's talk a bit about the logistics about, so the videos and class materials, it's okay with most of you, if not all, that we put it up. I'm going to talk a little bit more with Uganda University. The idea behind that is let's run a parallel course, i.e. they can use our materials, and then they can also develop their own materials. And what we do is that we meet either in the Facebook or blogging and that's where we actually interact with them. And I would also like to open this up to some of the ICTD communities that I know about, if that's okay. Okay, then this last point, and this is something that maybe we can discuss on Facebook and see how useful it is the MVP and the others with conflict. So essentially, as I mentioned, MVP is the Masters of Development folks. When I listed this class, I didn't know that would be such a lot of interest from them. I think that there is probably about 6 or 7 people, so not that many. So there's some options are this, right? A, depending on the size of this class, we would just do it as they are willing to sort of just view the video after class for Wednesday. They can join us on Monday. That's one, so we just go on with life as per normal. Second one is that we all have the Wednesday class as an online module, to test out the innovative thing. Third one would be to reschedule, which is a big headache. So if anybody knows of a technical solution, we could also do that. So that's sort of, and this is a typical example of problem solving. Any initial ideas? Someone solve this problem for me?
Is the class lecture based on Wednesdays, or is it more discussion based? Because if it's lecture based, then we could do an online module. Otherwise, it's quite.
Well, most of the classes wouldn't be lecture based. The way that I'm thinking of doing would be, you guys do the readings, we'll just boom, 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 discuss. I would like for it to be as discussion based as possible. That's my goal. So, maybe one of depending on the size of the class, because, if there's only like 5 of you attending the class, then, it's still a good size, I think. So, I don't know, how about just keep it and then have them do the online module? Or have all of us do the Wednesday discussion online? Give your opinion or forever hold your peace.
So how does this work? Would there be chat, or is it like Skype, or if it's discussion based?
If it's discussion based,
Yeah.
I have not thought about that. I'm thinking, the old-fashioned way essentially is that the instructor would say, okay, here's the old-fashioned. Have anybody taken an e-learning course before? So the old-fashioned way is the professor will okay, have this PowerPoint, they'll talk you through it, you see them talking, and then after that they'll be like, okay, here's a test and an exam. You answer it, and then here's a discussion forum, and you can discuss it. They can post topics like any usual, okay, what is the meaning of international development, and then everybody can discuss that. We could use a system like that too.
I've done all of this, and I don't think that the discussion is as
As
effective.
effective.
It's like being in a classroom having a discussion.
Right. Okay, so it sounds to me like most of you would prefer to still have the face-to-face on Wednesday. Okay. How about the notion of trying to reschedule so that we can have them?
When are they free? Sorry.
I do not
missed that
know.
part.
I'm like, there is a software solution somewhere. I'm thinking that could have you guys plug in all your, schedules and then
It's all Doodle.
Oh, there's whentomeet.com. where-
Whentomeet.com. Should we
where
do
everyone-
that? Are you guys willing to do that, or should we just make them?
They should just tell us that they're free on Wednesdays.
Huh?
Because if they're free like an hour from now.
Yeah, they are free an hour from now because they were saying, well, can you make the class at, they could come at 12. I don't know if it's, 12 to 1:30. Is that a possibility?
For me, it is. For me, it's
What
not.
if it's 1 to 2:30? Is it a possibility for everyone? No.
I have class at 2.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Whatever the case, let's just keep going next week, unless it screws up with your schedule, but let's just do Monday, Wednesday, and Monday we would actually be meeting with the rest of them. So let's get a sense of how many of them there are, how much we like them, to sacrifice. So in the meantime, I guess let's, email me because we're out of time, but this is important to me, okay? So any last questions? So we've talked about this, the summary, we talked about introduction to goals, we introduced you to the class, we talked about values and logistics, and I would love for you to email your recommendations to me as to how to make this different, not a typical kind of peanut butter class. So for next week, we will have more introductions and icebreakers on Mondays because the folks will be joining us. Sign up for the email list, which is ICTD group. Instructions are on the website. And also I will send out the Facebook close group. Close is good, right? You don't want to public. Yeah? Okay. And then read the week 2 readings on international development. They're already there. And then look out for announcements. Oh, and by the way, if you could market this course virtually, like I said, just have folks take it with us parallel or have more people come in. Okay?
So your email is ischool dot what?
It's either sonning at ischool.berkeley.edu or you can email me at son@sonning.com.
Go. iSchool.
All roads lead to Rome. Maybe I should email
iSchool.
something.
iSchool.
All roads leads to the website. So all the